Hashem's Vasai Tivtach L'Piaki Telasacha. We're now in the 17th Perek of Shoftim. This Perek is a very hard Perek because it is a hard story of the Pesel Micha. So let's start. Vahi Ish, there was a man, Mahar Ephraim, Ushmo Michayahu, and it Micha, who has a name attached to himself of Hashem. So in the beginning, we have an understanding of who Micha is. He is a good person. The Gemara talks about that. What was so good about him? What made him that he has the name of Hashem inside of his name? And the answer is that he did an amazing job of Hachnasas Orchem. He invited people who were on their way to give karbanos. He just was amazing at welcoming and inviting and giving people food, sustenance. And so he had a mitzvah that was so amazing that when the Malachei Asharis, when the angels saw that he was doing some really bad things, what we'll get into, they said, Hashem, it's mixing with the beautiful smoke of the karbanos that are brought from the Mishkan. Like, how could you let this happen? And he said, because something is good in Micha. The Gemara also talks about that when Moshe Rabbeinu saw that the Mitzrayim were doing something terrible to the Bnei Israel in Mitzrayim, that when they didn't have enough bricks to build whatever it was that Paro had asked, they would take babies and they would put them in the walls in lieu of the bricks. And Moshe said, don't. And Hashem said, I have a plan for everyone. And Moshe said, no, please. And so Hashem saved one baby and showed him and said, you're going to see what's going to happen. And that baby was Micha. So what happens? So he says to his mother, Elef umeya hakesef asher lukach lach, the 1,100 shekels of silver that were taken from you, I took it. So what happens is that he stole from his mother. And then he admitted to it. Now, what was very interesting is that he returns it, but his mother says, okay, but Tomer Imo, hakdish gad sheni, higdashti es hakesef lahashem, miyati livni lahaso pesel masecha, vata ashivenu lach. So instead of instead of just taking this money, instead I'm going to transfer it to you. And you know what I want you to do? I want you to develop a pesel, umasecha, some sort of idol, an image. And that's what I'm going to do when I give you back your money. And so when he gives the silver back to his mother takes 200 shekels of the silver and gives it to a silversmith, and they make this amazing image that she keeps by Hibaves Mechayahu. And so she takes this image. The image was of some sort of something. It's not necessarily avodah zarah, because in those days, what she was really what she and so much of Klal Yisrael were trying to do is they were just trying to connect to Hashem. They needed a concrete representation of Hashem. It was too esoteric. Who am I davening to? And what they were exposed to from all of the other nations. There was the sun god, there was the rain god, there was this god, and everyone had an idol, something that they could concretely hold onto. And so that's what the practice was among the Bnei Israel. They needed to build something that would a concrete representation. And so, they leave it in Micha's house. V'ha'ish Micha. Now, what happens immediately after this image is in his house? He's no longer Michayahu. V'ha'ish Micha lo beis Elohim or Elohim, we're not really sure. So now Micha has this in his, it used to be that he had a beis Elohim. He believed in Hashem and he was a good guy. But as soon as they put the shmutz, the bad influence of this avodah zarah, He no longer is Michayahu. Now he's just plain Micha. And then it gets worse. Because in life, when you take that slippery slope and you go down, it's very, very hard. One thing leads to the next that leads to the next. Vayas ephod u'trafim. Now he's making an ephod and a trafim. What are the trafim? Remember, we have with Rachel that she stole the trafim of Lavan. And these trafim are, again, they're just some sort of, maybe a crystal ball, something that's a concrete representation of a deity. And Hashem, give me some knowledge with something concrete. Vayimaleh es yad echad mipanav ahila l'kohen. And then he makes one of his children to be a Kohen. Like he has now gone off the derech. It is getting worse and worse. And how do we know it's worse and worse? Bayamim hayim ein melech b'Yisrael. In those days there was no king. And ish hayashar be'einav yaseh. Everyone is doing how they pleased. Everyone's interpreting the Torah the way they want to interpret the Torah. It's a dangerous, dangerous game. It's not a good way to be. You can't make up religion. Religion is what guides you, not the other way around. But they can't come to terms with how to be because they don't have good leadership. And so each person is just taking matters into their own hands. Hayashar be'einav yaseh. That's exactly the problem. In society, they all are just doing what they think is right. That's nice. No real significant role model to follow. Nothing that says, no, I can't do this. I have to do that. And so it continues. There was a young man from Beis Lechem Yehuda, Mishpachas Yehuda, Behu Levi, Behu Garsham. Interesting. We're very, very confused right now. There was a man from Beis Lechem Yehuda, from the clan Mishpachas Yehuda, but who Levi? He is a Levi, and he's living there. He's a traveler, So which one is it? So some say that his mother was from one shevet, he was from another shevet, or he was functioning as many of the Leviim were. They were scattered among the people of Yehuda because, remember, they didn't have a land, so or a nachla. So that's what they were. That's what he was resigned to do. But it's interesting that he leaves Beis Lechem and he goes to Har Ephraim, to Beis Micha, Lasot Darko. It so happens. Is this the Yad of Hashem? Yes. Sometimes we inadvertently interpret, it was, the Yad of Hashem, it's Hashgacha Pratis. Hashem let that happen, it must be so, it must be good. It's not always true. Sometimes Hashem makes things happen so that we will be tested, not so that it's just to show that it works out. So he happens to be in the house of Micha. None of these has to happen. Okay? And Vayomer lo Micha, and Micha says, Ma'in tavo. Like, where you come from? Remember, he's the best guy at Hachnasas Orchim. It's so nice. And he says, I'm from Beis Lechem Yehuda, and I am, I'm just trying to find a place. Now that is amazing because Micha, who's the best at Hachnasas Orchim, Shva imadi, live with me, and you will be la'av l'kohen, and you could be an Av and Kohen. Who was this guy? Why in the world would he care so much? So essentially, this is the grandson of Moshe Rabbeinu. This wasn't just anybody. And it's very interesting that this is to be so. And there's a hint when it says Behu Levi, Behu Ger Sham. What does that mean? What is Ger Sham? Also, it could be Gershom. And the story goes that it was Yisro who appeared to Moshe, interestingly, and he says to Moshe, it's a good idea for you to explore all religions. Because if you explore all religions like I did, then what you'll ultimately come up with is the right religion. It'll be great for you. And Moshe Rabbeinu says, no, I don't have to explore religions. He said, no, I want one of my grandsons to be able to explore religions, and then he'll find it just like I did. And so Moshe said, and he allowed Gershom to do that. And Gershom actually did it. And he found, obviously, Hashem, and he was fine. But you see, there's a smattering, there's a hint. When you're exposed to bad influences, even if you don't accept them, they tarnish you. And so it's tarnished here. And the proof of that is in what we say in Pasuk Yud Aleph. It says, Vayoel HaLevi Lasheves es ha'ish, that the Levi agreed. The word Yoel is the same word that Moshe used in the conversation with Yisro. So he says, you're going to be a Kohen, I'm going to give you money, I'm going to give you clothing, I'm going to give you food. And the Levi goes, and this Levi actually does that. Vayimale Micha es yad halevi, vayhilo hana'ar lakohen. And Micha does that exactly. And the young man becomes the Kohen. And of Micha's, shrine that he has with the Avodah Zarah inside. Vayomer Micha, ata yadati, now I know, ki hitiv Hashem li. Right? Hashgacha pratis. I now know that it was so amazing that Hashem wanted this so much for me. Ki hayali halevi lakohen. Because it so happened that a Kohen happens to be. It must be so. Things worked out so well. It has to be that this situation worked out. Hashgacha pratis. It was really meant to be. But many times in life it isn't. Now, the story of Pesel Micha perhaps happened during the time where Yehoshua is the leader. Or at the end of, it happens way earlier than this was actually happening. And there are a few proofs for that. But essentially, why would Shmuel HaNavi, who is giving us over the story in Shoftim, why would he choose to put Pesel Micha here as opposed to not in its chronology? And the answer is a very sensitive one. When you're telling, it would be embarrassing, it would be harsh, it would be, very hard for the Bnei Israel to accept or handle learning about Pesel Micha so early on. And so we have to inculcate, we have to kind of put it towards the end when we're getting a pattern of the people. And the people have already, they've gone through their ups and their downs, so that it's not so highlighted, the negative element. When you start off in the negative, it's very hard for people to then hear anything afterwards. And so Shmuel is really trying to stay as much positive about the Shoftim, or just about the leaders, about leadership, about the people. It's not as negative. What's happening here is a very, very, very harsh negative story, which we will get into in the next Perek. And it allows, so we have to kind of pace ourselves. And it really is a very sensitive and a Musar haskell for us. When you're telling something over, make sure that you handle the people's feelings, the way that people are going to react. And all of that together really impacts on chinuch, on how we take messages and what we do with the messages. And we will see in the next parak exactly what happens.